What are some of the strangest things scammers try to do? Let's get right to it and start with number 5. Faking comas. Fraudster Alan Knight, with the help of his wife Helen, successfully faked a coma for over 2 years before being found out and thrown in jail. The whole scheme was a continuous bid to get out of going to court for defrauding a neighbor. The pair had a supportive community and even some officials on their side until a single determined police detective blew the whole thing wide open. Back in 2011, Alan scammed some £41,570 from his retired neighbor. This amounted to the man's life savings. When the fraud was brought to light and the cops were brought in, Alan suddenly fell ill. Alan's condition got worse and worse with each dodged court hearing. Police tried to bring him in 2 times that were on record, and on both occasions, he checked himself into a hospital over his worsening condition. Helen sold the sob story in sensational fashion, complete with small details. At one point, she even dealt with the media. She drummed up sympathy among the public by going over how her husband can only communicate by squinting his eyes, a gesture she's come to be able to interpret to some small degree. The couple's doctor backed the claim as well. When Helen fed that same lie to their local member of parliament rep, Geraint Davis, he was touched. He wrote a nice letter about the couple to local police. He even went as far as to allege that the locals' actions could be interpreted as police brutality. It didn't take much for the whole arrangement to fall apart around the 2 scammers. Detective Constable Paul Harry began tracking the pair. Eventually, he was able to uncover a mountain of irrefutable evidence showing that Alan had never been in a coma. He turned up eyewitness reports, including those of hospital staff, and even CCTV videos showing Alan Knight up and about, perfectly fine. Many of the videos came from Tesco stores and were obtained by tracking Alan's store loyalty card. The couple were a pair of convincing actors, but were no good at covering their tracks. Egg on their collective faces, the authorities came down hard on the 2 scammers. Helen got 10 months in jail. Alan got 14 months for his latest stunt, along with 4.5 years for the crime he'd been trying to dodge. Number 4. Faking blindness. People scamming the government is old news. So Manchester's own Christina Pomfrey stood out from the crowd by scamming the government under 2 different identities. Claiming benefits for 2 disabled people, herself and an alias, Madame Pomfrey pocketed upwards of £1 million over the course of 15 years. At the height of her scam, she was pulling down some £13,000 a month. She kept the scam going for 15 years before finally getting caught back in 2017. She used her daughter's bank account as a stopgap, throwing authorities off the trail of the stolen cash. This massive and prolonged money laundering amounted to over £88,000 through the years. The daughter, Amy Brown, got a suspended sentence of 18 months for her part in the scheme. Along with keeping the ultimate destination of all the money a secret, Pomfrey seemed to be doing a fair job of faking 2 different disabilities. She claimed to be fully blind and to have multiple sclerosis. When somebody at the Department for Work and Pensions got suspicious, the agency put Pomfrey under observation. After that, it didn't take long for her to get caught driving and going out for a walk with a newspaper in hand. Not only did Granny get her own daughter in trouble and creatively defraud her fellow citizens with a double identity, but she tried to keep it going after she was caught. Authorities say that she continued making fraudulent claims while out on bail. As a cherry on top, her husband, John Pomfrey, didn't know about any of it. The man claimed to be completely unaware and said he would never forgive her. The scamming granny confessed to the whole thing when she had her day in Manchester Crown Court. Given her demonstrated lack of remorse, Judge Sophie McCone was only too happy to hand down a sentence of 3 years and 8 months. Senior prosecutor George Ward commented when the smoke cleared, condemning Pomfrey's actions and asserting that she ran one of the biggest scams of its type that had ever crossed his desk. No one saw that coming, except the not blind lady. Number 3. Faking cancer. Brazilian woman Camila Barbosa ran a short-lived scam that tugged at family and friends' heartstrings by making them believe she had breast cancer. She asked for donations and held raffles to get the cash for treatment. Yes, we do know that there are plenty of people out there who will lie about having cancer, but not many of them will actually sneak into hospital rooms and stage photos that show them in the middle of receiving treatments. Barbosa was originally admitted to Araujo Jorge Cancer Hospital to get tested for dengue fever, supposedly after she suspected exposure to the virus. Barbosa claimed that these routine tests pointed to a larger problem and led to more tests. Eventually, she came out and told her friends and family that she had cancer. And in early 2022, she began documenting her extended battle with the disease. Barbosa's lies went beyond the surface. One of them was that a doctor had recommended intubation, but she rejected the procedure and signed a document stating as such. She even went as far as to shave her own head. After that, she began coming to the hospital with some regularity. When she visited, she would usually post on social media. The posts included photos that she had put together herself, usually by sneaking into empty hospital rooms. Some of the photos were elaborately detailed and even included a pic of Barbosa with an IV sticking out of her chest. These posts were often accompanied by pleas for donations. One of these was supposedly for an MRI, a pricey imaging procedure used to see how far the cancer may have spread. For as elaborate as Barbosa was, you can only fake cancer for so long. It all came apart when a family member followed her to the hospital one day and found her sitting in the cafeteria. When they started asking questions, they learned that she wasn't only no longer a patient, but had been ejected from the hospital in the past due to repeated erratic behavior and getting into places she wasn't supposed to be. When her victims went to the authorities in January of 2023, they said she had gotten roughly $3,800 out of them. This claim led to the opening of an investigation. With official delegate Fernando Gontillo heading things up, authorities questioned Barbosa and eventually searched her home. Nothing they found backed up her claims. According to the family, the one medical procedure they could corroborate was the MRI, which went from her head to her torso and found nothing more sinister than common gastritis. When questioned, Barbosa didn't come clean. She told police different things at different times, and none of them quite lined up. At one point, she said that her treatment had been halted due to her medical records going missing. Another time, she said she had cancer before, gone into remission, and had a resurgence. Obviously, when authorities checked into those claims, they were found to be totally bogus. Despite the numerous crimes committed here, such as perjury and trespassing, the only thing that Barbosa is currently facing charges for as of the release of this video is embezzlement. Given the relatively small sum involved, her punishment for that is likely to be a mere slap on the wrist. Number 2. Food poisoning. Tourists in a new country can be extremely gullible, a fact that Laura Joyce and 7 other British expats used to launch a massive scam involving false allegations of food poisoning. The 8 had a simple yet effective central tactic. They'd convince hapless tourists to turn on establishments that they had stayed and dined at for a quick buck. The unorthodox operation never seemed destined to go far, but the ragtag group and their collaborators got £9.5 million out of 3 area hotels between 2016 and 2017. The partners involved in the scam set up a shell company to funnel profits called Elite Project Marketing SL. Reported details on the front are slim, with authorities having been made aware of only €3,000 of capital. Far cry from the true amounts processed through the fraudulent company. The scam worked by reeling in tourists on vacation in Spain. People who had stayed at area hotels were promised fast cash and the backing of Joyce & Company in return for making false claims of food poisoning. The all-inclusive establishments mostly turned the claimants away. In fact, of those who participated, very few were found to need medical attention in any way. When one of these did strike gold, Joyce and friends helped them to manage their claim and took a hefty portion of what was paid out for themselves. When Joyce was taken to court in 2018, she fed authorities a story about how she simply passed on people's info to process the claims as part of a market research exercise. Naturally, details on what the exercise was for or what would be done with the information were unavailable. A connection was also made with a coaching service that Joyce ran for a short time called Mummy on a Mission. All of that fell apart in court. With others put on trial for the scam facing similar fates, Joyce ended up sentenced to 8 years in a Spanish prison. Additionally, it came to light during the trial that a bar she owned in Magaluf was the scene of an infamous video showing a tourist engaging in lewd acts with at least 24 patrons. This caused a crackdown on the local bar scene, especially in the party capital of Magaluf. That Spanish prison food might end end up being a self-fulfilling prophecy, maybe? And before we get to number 1, if you're loving these stories, be sure to stay on this video for this fake money guru who was caught living in his parents' basement. Number 1. Connor McGregor? Celebrities with criminal records are a dime a dozen, and so are celebrity lookalikes. What about criminal celebrity doppelgangers who are actually criminals? Englishman Mark Knight got a taste of that life when he used his resemblance to professional fighter Conor McGregor to start building an empire of illegal substances, and a routine traffic stop made it all fall apart. We're sure you already know that Conor McGregor is one of the most famous and infamous MMA fighters for his antics inside and outside the ring. In February of 2021, Surrey police noticed a man trying to dump some stuff on the side of the road and decided to check it out. They found a man claiming to be the fighting legend himself. It didn't take officers long to figure out what was really going on. They found business cards on Nye that had McGregor Enterprises on them, along with promising the best substances in Surrey, England. His phone contained texts about his business. When police searched his home, they found a cleaver and a serious stash of boric acid, a chemical that's used to cut contraband. Mark Nye got his day in front of a judge on April 9th. Once he was inside Guildford Crown Court, Nye gave up his fake identity and any hope of escaping responsibility for his crimes. He pleaded guilty to possession with intent to distribute and was sentenced to 2 years and 9 months in prison. Somehow, this contraband peddler has still found himself in less hot water than his more famous counterpart. It seems Connor has done more to ruin their appearance than Nye ever could. Did anyone ever run up to Mark and ask him why his proper number 12 whiskey isn't very good? Gurvan Singh seemed to be living the high life, posting images of his high-end jewelry and fancy cars to support his claim that he made millions on the foreign exchange market. He promised that other people could follow his advice to become wealthy beyond their wildest dreams. In reality, Singh, or Gurvs, as he called himself on Instagram, was selling nothing more than a pipe dream that cost many investors money they couldn't afford to lose. All these promises are red flags even a new investor should recognize. According to an in-depth investigation by journalist Moby Nazar, Gurvan used his social media accounts to sell the false hope of guaranteed financial windfalls for anyone who invested their money into his scheme. Although Singh apparently raked in about £3 million, the evidence shows it was through scamming naive people out of their savings rather than finding a profitable investment strategy. To convince social media users that he was the real deal, he made impossible promises that even the most experienced money managers wouldn't touch. Specifically, Singh promised his investors that they'd never lose any money. While most people disregarded his call to action, this 20-year-old scammer reportedly convinced roughly 1,200 individuals to send their cash. A few made it through the experience, only losing a few £100s. Others handed over as much as £88,000 that they never saw again. Singh's ego-boosting posts portrayed a young man with an undeniable knack for making a buck. At one point, he claimed his savvy investing skills turned £200 into a whopping £100,000. The huge return on such a small initial investment was clearly enticing to others who wanted a piece of the action. He took the grift further by suggesting that investors could expect to make £300 per day if they followed his lead and trusted him with their cash. He deleted old social media accounts and started new ones before settling on the handle @Mr.Gurvs. Still, his content remained centered on the same false promises and fabricated evidence of his personal wealth. One of his most popular posts depicted him handing out money to random strangers as if he had so much that he didn't know what else to do with it all. Singh presented himself as a reputable trader in the foreign exchange or Forex market. In reality, watchdog organizations and regulators kept a close eye on his claims and ultimately warned the public that he was not properly licensed to make the type of investments he peddled online. Forex trading is a broad term that can refer to any transaction that exchanges one international currency for another. While reputable investors can make a healthy profit, the global financial system is full of fraud. One attorney specializing in such scams said that her law firm has taken up thousands of cases in which victims said they were conned out of their savings by a Forex fraudster. It's bad enough that Singh conned so many people, but the fact that investors lost all their money on Christmas Eve added insult to injury. One of those individuals, identified only as Jonathan, shared a story that was similar to many others who fell for the investment scheme. He was 24 years old at the time and saving money to buy a home. Most of the people who found Singh through Instagram were also in their early 20s. Although Jonathan said he frequently scrolled through social media to find funny posts and memes, sometimes an investment influencer would catch his eye. After he spotted the viral video showing Singh handing money to folks on the street, he became intrigued with the idea of investing in the system. Jonathan sent Singh a message, and the reply indicated that a £500 initial deposit would be required to move forward. It was a no-brainer for Jonathan, who was clearly impressed by the luxury cars and expensive tastes displayed on Singh's Instagram account. The first step involved joining a group message to learn more about the process. After being told he'd earn £100 right off the bat, Jonathan decided to sink more of his £17,000 savings into the scheme. Days later, Singh said the initial investment had nearly doubled and was worth £30,000. Jonathan knew the inherent risks associated with trading and investing. Ironically, he said it was rare to lose an entire investment. After learning all of his profits had been wiped out in December 2020, he realized how wrong he was. He remembers the losses coming quickly as £27,000 turned to £9,000 on Christmas Eve. Jonathan watched helplessly as more and more of his money evaporated into thin air. He said he assumed that the millionaire investor was working within the confines of British regulators at the Financial Conduct Authority, but he was wrong. In fact, the agency issued a strongly worded advisory confirming that Singh was not affiliated with the FCA and urging prospective investors to think twice before giving him any money. Making matters worse, Singh and others involved in the scheme went back on their earlier promise that Jonathan would be able to take his money out whenever he wished. While he was obviously distraught over the whole situation, he said that others lost substantially more, including some investors who were scammed out of their entire life savings and found out about it the day before Christmas. Singh's scheme attracted significant attention outside of the social media realm. Veteran journalist Mobi Nazar was among the most prominent sources of information and compiled all of his evidence to create a compelling documentary titled Scam City, Money, Mayhem, and Maseratis. After his marks lost millions, Singh appeared eager to put the whole ordeal behind him. In fact, he launched yet another scheme online to target young people interested in investing. As media reports noted, his Instagram profile was scrubbed of any references to his prior Forex trading rhetoric, and in its place was promotional material about a new business called Academy to Earn. This venture, he claimed, consisted of an internet-based educational program designed to share the fundamentals of online marketing and sales. While Singh might have pivoted away from his prior strategy, Azar wasn't prepared to let him get away scot-free. Instead, the investigative reporter hunted for clues and interviewed a long line of people who claimed they were swindled out of their savings by a smooth-talking social media user. His 4-part documentary aired on BBC Two and received plenty of critical acclaim. However, it was just the latest in a series of scandals and controversies he'd attempted to expose by digging deep into the relevant facts. His impressive portfolio includes reports on topics including U.S. drone strikes in the Middle East, the life of LGBTQ individuals in Pakistan, and an award-winning expose about a police-related incident in the United Kingdom. Azar also completed a labor-intensive book containing various details from the life of the late singer-songwriter Prince. After interviewing fraud experts and the apparent victims of the investment scheme, Azar tried to get some information from the source, found out where Singh was living, though it didn't reflect the lavish life he'd been selling on Instagram. Instead, the journalist found him living with his parents in London. They were all sharing an ordinary house. There were no signs of the wealth Singh allegedly amassed through his expert knowledge of the foreign exchange market. When Azar confronted him outside of the home, it became clear that Singh wasn't ready to go on the record. Instead of responding to the reporter's questions, the accused scammer hid in a nearby store. A few moments later, Singh made his escape. He hustled down the street with his girlfriend while Azar was hot on his tail. Then the tight-lipped scammer hopped in his car and drove off, leaving Azar with more questions than answers. As Singh received increased scrutiny from the media, he decided to publicly address the allegations against him. Unsurprisingly, he blamed others for the fact that his scheme lost money. Specifically, he pointed the finger at Infinox, a brokerage firm that put the entire plan in motion. For its part, a Bahamas-based branch of the company claimed it operated within the confines of the law and denied any wrongdoing. On the other hand, Singh insisted that he agreed to a deal with the firm to attract investors and claimed he didn't know at the time that the partnership was doomed to fail. Infinox UK has also distanced itself from Infinox Bahamas and said that the British-based branch had nothing to do with any agreement to market the investment scheme. Official documents suggest that Infinox Bahamas took the lead in determining where to invest the money. Still, its CEO asserted that Singh's actions were why those investments ultimately went south. A series of WhatsApp conversations also surfaced, revealing that victims were being told that their investments were making money. In reality, they'd been shedding profits since at least 2019. The individuals in charge of managing these accounts appeared eager to downplay any evidence that the investments were losing money. Eventually, the combined value of these assets dipped below £4 million. All the accounts were closed and the investors lost all their money. The evidence suggests that Infinox Bahamas played a central role in developing and marketing this corrupt investment plan. Nevertheless, Azhar's documentary series revealed details that emphasize Singh's involvement in defrauding investors. The bottom line is that there's clearly enough blame to go around, even if no one involved wants to accept their share of the responsibility. Amid all of the finger pointing at play in this story, Singh hopes he'll convince critics that he's just one of the victims. He continues to tell the world that his only error was signing a contract in good faith that resulted in a series of ill-advised trades and ultimately cost investors millions. In his mind, he was just a young entrepreneur trying to make a name for himself when he fell victim to a business that offered him a misleading contract. He also shared his desire to sit down with regulators at the FCA to address the organization's depiction of him as an unauthorized financial services provider. For what it's worth, the FCA still included its warning about Singh on its official website, even as he tried to shift the blame to Infinox. When they asked about the contents of Azhar's documentary, Singh opted to keep his mouth shut. So far, Singh has not been charged with the crime, although it's unclear whether the legal system will ever hand down justice for the perpetrators and victims. There's no doubt that the underlying scam will attract significant attention for years to come. Thankfully, folks like Jonathan are willing to discuss their staggering financial losses. Meanwhile, Azhar and other brave journalists continue digging up details and following the facts wherever they lead. Click to watch one of these next videos. Let us know in the comments section below what you think is easier to fall for. Someone pretending to be a celebrity, or someone trying to get a few dollars out of you with a sob story at a gas station.